Hey, VFX artist, this is Mr. Granlund. We're talking about the butterfly effect for your second effect here. And I just want to remind you what we did in the first tutorial. The first tutorial, we sliced this up into the different parts, and then we linked all of the layers to the slider control here. We have a little bit of a problem here. As you see, I'm getting this curling in my wing here as I control the slider. So I need to go back and fix this here, and I'll show you how to fix that in a second. So here we have our flapping that it kind of spirals around the butterfly body here, and we don't want that to happen. Well, what happened is because of math. So in our effects here for our expressions, if we go into these expressions here, we need to multiply this by -1. So I'm going to just copy that expression for each of these, and it looks like this one turned off for some reason. Oh, here it is. So we're going to make sure that the Y rotation is linked to the slider control, but then it's also multiplied by -1. So we're going to go through all of these. We're going to go into our Y rotation and make sure they're multiplied by -1. And what that'll do is that'll change it so it flaps the opposite direction as the other wing, like it's supposed to. That's linked there, and then at the end there's that control there. And as you can see, this gets quite long. R for rotation, open up the Y controller, multiply by -1, multiply by -1, rotation, and multiply it by -1. Push U on the keyboard to hide all of those things. Now for the second part of the controller, the second slider controller, this is the flap. So actually what I'm going to do here is we're going to go to Y rotation, hold Alt, and we're actually going to link this to the slider controller, slider control number 2. So I can actually go up here to that guy, because this is going to be our flap, so that's what actually flaps the wings. And then this first one, that's where the wings bend. And I'm going to do this one, just this first section here. R for rotation, hold Alt. We're going to put in a new one. We're going to link this to slider control number 2, and we're going to multiply that by -1. So what we have is we have that, and then at the same time we can control the bend a little bit. So now we have our butterfly solo, and we can animate the butterfly in the movie. We also need to create the particles, the magical particles that kind of spill out of its body and turn into fireworks. Alright, so let's create a, just to see what's going on here, we're going to create a new layer, and that's going to be a camera layer. And what that allows us to do is just kind of rotate around here and just see how things look. And if we go to our controller and our flap, we're going to create an expression on this. So we're going to go to slider, We're going to hold Alt on the slider. We're going to say loop, and then capital O, O-U-T, loop out, parentheses. And we're going to type in quotation marks, ping pong, end quotation marks. So if you notice, we have this little error here, and this indicates there's an error in the expression, and the error is we haven't set any keyframes. So we're going to do that real quick. So I'm going to set this back to 0 so everything's flat. Our first keyframe is going to be up, and that should be good there, so about 34. And then we're going to go forward, I don't know, about 5 or 6 frames here. And then we're going to do just negative 34. Maybe a little bit more. There we go. That looks very butterfly-like. So negative 58. And then we're going to do the same thing. And what all that does is ping pong. Oh, with a semicolon at the end. So here we go, we have the butterfly flapping its wings. Well, we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to just copy that expression. We're going to do the same thing for controller slider 1. So we're going to do a bend, maybe about, I don't know, 10. Looks good. And then we're going to go again, about 5-6 frames. And we're going to do probably, yeah, negative 6 there. That looks good. And we're going to do an expression there. So we're going to go Alt, click on the slider, loop out ping pong. And so now we have a really nice kind of flapping butterfly. Now what we can do is we can take this 3D thing and put it into our butterfly footage and animate some magical trails. Alright, back again with more butterfly effects, and we're going to create our composition. So in here I right clicked and I create new from selection for our footage, and I dragged in our butterfly solo composition. That's this guy, and I also deleted the camera, and I can delete the grid from it because we don't need those things anymore. Okay. And I'm going to make a null object, that's 3D. I'm also going to make my butterfly solo 3D. And I'm also going to have this rasterize this layer. So if I rotate the null object, or if I rotate the butterfly here, you'll kind of see, you know, the 3D-ness of the butterfly there. And I've already made a new layer. I called it particle. It's just a new solid layer. Layer, new, solid. And I called it particle, and I took particle world and I dragged it to that layer. Now butterfly solo is parented to null 4, and what we're going to do is we're going to set position keyframes, 3D position keyframes, so that wherever the null object goes, and however the null object turns, that the butterfly is going to follow. So bring that to the end there. But we have this particle system, and we're going to put this behind the butterfly, and we're going to kind of have it spit out of the butterfly and use some of the colors inside the butterfly. So the first thing that we need to do is we're going to go to the producer, and we're going to have the producer, Alt, click on the producer, and we're going to take this and we're going to parent this to the position keyframe, the X position of the null object. So we're going to go to position, and we're going to do that. Hold Alt on the Y position. We're going to go to the Y position from the null object, and we're going to go to the Z position, hold Alt, click on the Z position, and parent that to the Z position of the null object, so that all of its information is coming from, that the position of the producer is coming from the null object, which is at the same location as the butterfly.